Okay, good morning. In this particular video, we are going to be going over parallel and perpendicular lines. Okay, setting is now off. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to dive into writing equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. Let's go ahead and dive in. So this very first one, we are going to be looking at, let's do a parallel line with this one. And let's remember that a parallel line has the exact same slope. So we are going to be setting up an equation that has the same slope, that is 3 over 2. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to use two types of particular equations. You get to choose which one you want to use. So y is equal to mx plus b, or you can use the point slope formula and format, which is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. So my y value, here I have an x and I have a y. My y value is 5 because now today they're going to go through a specific point. Our m value is 3 over 2 because it has to be the same because this one is going to be parallel. And then my x value is 2 plus b. So the math that is happening here is 3 times 2 because if I was to write and multiply a fraction, this is what it would look like. 3 times 2 is 6. And then divided by that 2 would be 3 plus b. Solving for this equation, I subtract 3 on both sides, and then I'm left with 2 is equal to b. So my particular equation, same slope again, would be y is equal to 3 over 2x, and then my y-intercept would be 2. The point slope is very similar. I'm just going to replace the values that are given to me with the above information. So y1 is 5, and that's supposed to be a subtraction sign, my apologies. My slope is the same because it was parallel. So let's do 3 over 2 times x, and then we're going to subtract 2. Here, this requires us to use the distributive property. Again, you can choose which particular format you want to use. So we have y minus 5 is equal to 3 over 2x. And then same multiplication that we did over there, over here as well, except for it is going to be a negative 3. Here we're going to add 5 to both sides to get that y by itself. And when we add 5 to both sides, we get y is equal to 3 over 2 x plus 2, which is my exact same answer. So again, you were able to use the format that you want to use. This particular problem was parallel, so we had to have the same slope. Okay, for the next one, let's do a perpendicular line. Okay, so on this one, we're going to remember that a perpendicular line has the opposite slope. Okay, so perpendicular lines have the opposite slope. So this was positive, so that means that my new slope is going to be negative. And then the reciprocal or flipped version of this fraction, which would be 3. Okay, so I have two formats that I can use in this particular question. I'm going to use y is equal to mx plus b, or I'm going to use the point slope, which is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Okay, I'm going to plug in my given information. So here I have an x and I have a y. So 8 is going to go in for y. Negative 3 is going to go in for m, because remember I had to be perpendicular. And my x value is negative 9, and then plus b. So I have 8 is equal to, if I was to do 3 times 9, I'm going to get 27. And again, it was negative 3 times a negative 9, so let's say positive 27 plus b, and then I'm subtracting 27 on both sides to solve. Okay, when you do so, 8 minus 27 happens to be negative 19 is equal to b, so then plugging in my given information from my format, we have y is equal to negative 3x, and then minus 19. Okay, another formula and format you can use and an option that you have is using the point slope. So I'm going to put 8 in here. I'm going to put -3 because my slope was perpendicular, opposite, and the reciprocal, times x, and then this will subtract -9, so it's going to turn to a positive 9 here. So y minus 8 is equal to -3x, and this right here is going to be minus 27, and then I'm going to add 8 to both sides, which then puts my equation that y is equal to -3x, and then I have minus 19. Okay, either way, you're able to get the same answer. The key takeaway is figuring out whether the question said parallel or perpendicular. Okay, what if your equation is not in slope-intercept form? So I have no idea what the slope is. So in some questions today, you're going to need to solve for y first. So you think back to the one wrap video that I showed you to get the y alone. So first we need to get the y alone. So we have some mathematical practices to do here first, operations, to get the y by itself before we even begin. So here is my y values here. So I'm going to leave this section alone, which means I need to move the 2x over. It was positive, so I'm going to subtract 2x. And then if you all don't mind, I'm going to put the 2x in front just because my formula is y is equal to mx plus b, so the x comes first in this case. So let's go ahead and just put subtract 2x, and then that was a positive 6. Okay, so then to keep solving, I'm going to divide by -2, and everything on top is divided by -2 on the right-hand side. So -2 divided by -2 is a positive 1, and then 6, divided by -2 is a -3. Okay, so I know that my slope here is 1. Okay, so let's first do a parallel slope. So for a parallel slope, let's remember that the slope has to be the same. Okay, so first we're going to do a parallel slope, which means that the slope is the same. And then we're going to plug in our x, and we're going to plug in our y. So our y value is 4. Our slope is 1 because it was the same, and my x value is -2, and then plus b. So 4 is equal to -2 plus b, and then solving, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. That's going to give me 6. So 6 is equal to b, so that would be y is equal to, same slope, remember, 1x plus 6. If I was to be using the point slope formula, I would be doing y minus 4 is equal to 1, because we're using the same slope, times x, and then minus -2 would be plus 2. And then from here, I do my distributive property. So y minus 4 is equal to 1x plus 2. And then we just simply add 4 to both sides, which is going to give us y is equal to 1x plus 6. Okay, so now that we see that parallel slopes are the same, and we see that sometimes we need to be solving for a perpendicular line or a parallel line, we're going to do one more of these, but with a perpendicular slope. So remember, sometimes it's going to require you to solve for the slope-intercept form before you do anything. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. And then on the next slide, we're going to do a perpendicular line. Okay, so in this one, I'm also going to need to solve for y to get in slope-intercept form to figure out what my slope is. So let's first remember that my slope-intercept form is y is equal to mx plus b, and then we also have that wonderful point slope form that we're going to end up using in a minute. Okay, so getting started first, we're going to go ahead and get the y by itself. So we have 10x plus 4y is equal to negative 8. We're going to subtract 10x on both sides. And then we have 4y left, negative 10x, negative 8, and then we're going to be dividing by 4 on both sides. So y is equal to negative 10 divided by 4. I'm going to be using that in fraction form. So that is actually going to be simplifying down to negative 5 over 2. And then we have negative 8 divided by 4, which is negative 2. Okay, so I know that my slope here is negative 5 over 2. So if I was to do a perpendicular line, so again, we're going to do perpendicular this time. My slope has to be opposite, so this is negative, so my slope is going to be positive, and then the flipped version of that fraction would be 2 over 5. Okay, so I'm going to use my x and I'm going to use my y values, and I'm just going to put 2 over 5 here in the purple color so that I can continue to write in the black ink for the rest of it. Okay. So I'm going to be plugging in my y value, which is 1, and then my x value, which is negative 2, and then I am looking for b. So what is happening here with the fractions is 2 over 5 times negative 2 over 1. Okay, so here I have 2 times negative 2, which is negative 4, divided by 5. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and leave that as a fraction. So this is equal to, again, negative 4 over 5 plus b. And then solving, we're going to add 4/5 to both sides. So some equations may also have a fraction for your y-intercept, and that is okay. So then if I was to add 1 plus 4 divided by 5, we can keep it in fraction form if you would like to, or you can use a decimal. Either way will be acceptable today. So 1.8 is equal to b, which means that my final formula would be y. Let me just clean that up a little bit. Y is equal to, remember my slope was opposite and reciprocal, so 2/5 x plus 1.8. If you were choosing to use the point slope form, you'd be plugging 1 in for that y value, so y minus 1. Okay, we have our slope, which was our opposite and reciprocal, and then we have a subtract negative, which turns into a positive 2. So y minus 1 is equal to 2/5 x. And then we have the same operation that we had on the other side, but they're positive numbers. So there's going to be a positive 4 over 5. And then here we just add 1 to both sides. So we're still going to get y is equal to 2/5 x plus, we're going to leave that as a decimal, 1.8. So again, in some cases today, it may be requiring you to solve for y before you are able to put it in point slope form. So if that happens, again, I'm just going to highlight this part here over here in yellow. You may need to do some solving for y before you figure out the line with the given information, because you need to get the slope, which is right before x. And so in this particular formula here, you couldn't discover that, you couldn't see that, so you needed to solve for y first. So after that, you're going to use your given information, read the question to see if it's asking for a parallel or a perpendicular line, and then you can choose the option whether you want to plug in the information into y equals mx plus b, or if you want to use point slope, y minus y1, which is equal to m times x minus x1. Good luck on your math assignment today, and remember that if you make a private comment or shoot me an email, I am still available for help. Best of luck to you guys.